invite Lata and Lata Setty and Rosena Sammi to please come on to the panel. All right, so I will give a quick, I'll give a quick bio of Lata, and Lata, you can introduce Rosena here. So Lata, what do we say about Lata? Like Lata is our, she's the Thai women sponsor, Thai New Jersey women sponsor. She is originally a trial attorney, and she transformed, she's pivoted to becoming a serial digital transformation entrepreneur to investor, passionate about emboldening other founders' journeys. She is a digital nomad. Lata leverages her deep startup expertise to hunt for and accelerate scaling of female-founded businesses, bridging science, law, business, and tech. As a co-founder, successfully exiting several VC-funded companies that have digitally transformed antiquated industries, she's fully experienced the gender disparity in VC funding, inspiring her to become the first LP investor at How Women Invest Fund, disrupting the inequity of the 2% of VC funding that we saw in female-founded US startups. And to call out there, it's 0.5% in women of color founders. So big round of applause, for Lata, and everything she does for Thai women. Lata is she shuttles between California, New Jersey, and God knows where else in the world. But she will make it a point to be here today for us. So thank you, Lata. Yeah.
I think that intro is better over happy hour, so I'll keep it brief. I'm so honored to be here with Rosena today. Since we only have 15 minutes and my intro might have been like 10 minutes of that, I'll be really quick. Rosena and I go way back. We were both litigators in Manhattan. And we happened to be at one of the first South Asian Bar Association events in Manhattan. I'm talking 20 plus years ago, like before marriage, kids. She looks the same, I don't, but nevertheless, and I was honored to be there the day she met her husband, who also was a patent litigator and a colleague of mine. So I wanted to kick off today by asking, how many people in here are founders? Can you raise your hand, or want to be founders? Okay, more than half. How many here are investors, angel, or VC? Okay, terrific. And in the founder category, how many are tech founders? The majority. And how about folks like Shalja? Who here is like biotech, health tech, science? A good number. So it's a pleasure today to introduce Rosena, because unlike a lot of the community here that are tech and science founders, Rosena, I would have to qualify, is a non-tech founder who does leverage technology in her business. And Rosena went from litigator to a startup founder, and subsequently to jewelry edit. So Rosena, can you give us a quick background on what triggered this crazy, wild brain spasm to make you an entrepreneur?
Well, yes, it's certainly not a straight line, and I think the exciting thing about the entrepreneurial journey is that you always have to keep your eyes open. You're always looking left and right at the opportunities that exist and that you can capitalize on. So yes, when we met, I was a lawyer in New York City. Typical, I'd actually, if you detect an accent, I'm originally from New Zealand, which is where I graduated law school. I'm of Sri Lankan Tamil heritage. Then I came to the US, I did a master's at the University of Virginia in law, and then I practiced law, and I practiced for almost 8 years. But as many lawyers can attest to, sometimes you get a little, you have a scratch that you have to itch for some creativity. And so I found myself taking night classes at Parsons School of Design, And what do you know, one thing leads to another. I leave my Park Avenue law firm, and that same evening, I fly to India to start this new journey as a jewelry designer. I launched my own line. It was sold at every major department store, Saks, Neiman's, Nordstrom. I was one of the first designers to really translate traditional Indian jewelry into something very wearable. And from there, however, I got a little disenchanted with the way fast fashion was evolving. And so that resulted in the jewelry edit. And that's where I am the founder and CEO now. We are a multi-brand e-commerce boutique, but we're focused on two things. One is a journey towards becoming more sustainable. So all our designers are as passionate about the environment as I am. And secondly, I really like to elevate diverse designers. So over half our designers are diverse. And in the fashion industry, it's incredibly rare to see that. And it's very rare to be dealing with buyers or merchandisers who are diverse. I had a journey where I was really pigeonholed in terms of what I did. So it's exciting for me to really lead this company with a completely different mindset. We have had jewelry worn, or I've had jewelry worn by Rihanna, Blake Lively, Miley Cyrus. We've had great celebrity success. We just had a full-page feature in the New York Times a few weeks ago. So I don't know. I don't know quite how I evolved to where I am today, but I think it was always a desire to stay curious. And I know similar story for you. Is that correct?
Well, somewhat similar. When I left my practice, can you all hear me? When I left my practice in the top of Rockefeller Center, working with her husband Tony, took that elevator down 49 floors. I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew is my name was probably already replaced on the office, the door. While Rosena went to India to meet with jewelry designers, and by the way, before she started Jewelry Edit, her jewelry at rosenasammi.com, her first startup, was worn by people you'd never heard of, like Blake Lively and Madonna, and she was in Vogue. And I'm like, wait, my startup, I'm flying coach on Air India in the middle row, while her life was just a little bit more elegant and more historic. Can you share, one of the things I loved about her first business, she would take traditional Indian jewelry design and wrap a beautiful story around it and make it accessible to, the modern American or European or Asian woman. Maybe share one of those, because I thought that was so clever, the storytelling behind it.
Yeah, well, I think it's in our DNA. For us, jewelry isn't a disposable item. It's really a way of telling the world something about ourselves. And I think that's always been a part of the way we enjoy jewelry. We've probably seen it in our family. I learned Bharatanatyam, so, I always saw jewelry as very expressive. I think one of my first collections I did was in Sanskrit, and I would take words and think about the meaning of these words. I would wear them almost as like when we're talking about women empowering themselves, I would see these words as very empowering. I think one great anecdote I can share is that in terms of building confidence and feeling empowered, when I was getting my first office, and I was moving out of, the apartment into an office space, I was very nervous about that, and I was like, am I crazy? Am I really ready to go into an office? And I was at IKEA checking out my furniture, and the woman in front of me buying something was wearing one of my necklaces. And so I always saw that as a sign. Lindsay Lohan was wearing it, and all of those 90s girls, but I saw that as a sign that, maybe I was doing something right and connecting. I don't know if you ever had any signs that told you were on the right path.
Well, I think for me, I knew I was on the right path because I wanted to do something that was a melding of my responsibilities as a mother and start a company that leveraged the knowledge economy, specifically in the digital transformation industry. But when you get certain clients or advance in fundraising that you're on the right track. And to me, the biggest pleasure or reward that makes up for all the hard work and challenges of being an entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, is who you become in that journey, and to feel that the impact you have on your startup could not happen with anybody else, unlike my big law firm, where you're somewhat of a fungible, commodity, no matter how smart you think you are, right? And Rosena, along those same lines, As someone who was, working with like the A celebrity list of who's wearing your jewelry, what made you decide to go from that and to pivot to this new entity?
Well, it really came down to what the jewelry industry has become, which is unfortunately a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to change. So there's so much impact that the jewelry industry has on the environment. This sort of model of disposable, cheap jewelry that you see at all of the department stores, you see at all of those chain stores. I was a part of that. I was making jewelry for Neiman Marcus, for Anthropologie, that really fell into that cycle. And that's not, when you talk about being a mom and you think about the future that you want to create for that next generation, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to that idea that jewelry is about telling a story. And so it's not easy. I'm certainly coming up against a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers. But I think, we're getting our message across that it's time to change. We all know about, for example, like blood diamonds. I think, everyone, has that's very top of mind. But we also need to think about like where our gold comes from. Who's making our jewelry? What inspires people to make jewelry? And I love that storytelling part of it.
Well, even before I knew about Rosena's jewelry entrepreneurship, my ring, I got tracking the blood diamonds, and therefore it's not a diamond. My dad would call it an American diamond, but it's something that was done without child labor, without warfare, etc., long time ago. So, Rosena, do you have any specific advice? Because a number of our entrepreneurs, we have a woman who's starting a company of tea that she's curating into a very exclusive premium offering. We have someone who's starting like a protein bar business. What's your advice for non-technical entrepreneurs?
Well, I think it's the same advice for everyone, which I think is, and this is advice I'm constantly telling myself, is that you have to persevere, you have to have thick skin, there's no such thing as failure. You have to really wear that as a badge of helping you get to where you're ultimately going. And I think it's a couple of things, like to always be out there. Coming to events like this is great. You never know who you're going to meet, and I have a good networking story if you're going to ask me about that. And also, I think hard work. I think I also now teach law at Parsons School of Design, so I've kind of come full circle. I'm an adjunct professor there. So what's nice is that I have my finger on the pulse of that next generation, and I find myself always having to tell them that no one is an overnight success. You love to hear about things going viral, but for us who have been in the trenches, who have slogged those nights, whether it's at a law firm or as part of your own business, nothing can replace hard work. And the idea that you've got a lot to learn from the people around you. So I really push back against this whole like working from home all the time. You get out there, there are people, the best lessons I learned was being in the room with people who knew far more than I do, right? And I think that's really important to stress.
I could hear her with her Kiwi accent speak all day, can't you? Are these from your?
Yeah, this is one of our designers. She's actually she's based in New York, but she uses an Italian metalwork, and it's the way that she cuts and it catches the light. I hope it's a famous best-selling piece for us. It's also worn on the likes of J-Lo, who has it in all 3 different golds. I know, so it's a popular feather piece. I thought I'd wear tonight.
So wouldn't you like her to be like Oprah and give us all in the audience an earring set?
Or maybe one of the investors in the room can talk to me later and we'll figure that out.
Absolutely. And I know you are engaging a lot of diverse designers. Can you talk a little bit about your targeted market? Is it diverse, as well as your go-to-market strategy with Jewelry Edit?
Sure. So it's not diverse. It's really anyone who wants to know more about what they're buying. Anyone who also wants to shop their values. So we have a very diverse range of clients, I would say. And what was interesting is in this feature in the New York Times that just came out, and if you Google me, you'll find it. They were a fly on the wall for 3 of our clients. So these were 3 VIPs. One was the CEO of Hermes, so a very successful fashion executive. One was Spike Lee's wife, if you know the movie director, and she's a lawyer turned entrepreneur also, actually, in the organic vitamins business. And the third was the Princess of Miwa, so an successful Indian woman philanthropist. And so I find it's like that's a great example of women who really want to know about the stories behind the jewelry. And for me, what I'm focusing on also is trying to take that experience, which is obviously very like red carpet luxury, they're looking at $30,000 necklaces, but translate to that younger audience. So if you look at our e-commerce website, our bestsellers are $200 and under. And it's about taking that idea of storytelling, whether it's a $30,000 piece or a $300 piece or a $50 piece, and being able to create that same experience and excitement around what people are wearing.
And in your first company, she was the model that wore all the jewelry, which made it even more intriguing and fascinating. Will you be doing that with Jewelry Edit as well?
Oh gosh, no, and that was purely because of budgetary constraints, and I think that was maybe the first collection, but no. And so we launched in 2020, and so for that, no, I mean, you may see me on the website, but that's certainly not a focus of mine. In fact, as many entrepreneurs know, we wear so many hats in our day-to-day life, in between drafting contracts or like negotiating with designers or working with clients. It's very hard to also be modeling. But having said that, there's something to be said for TikTok and social media and getting out there. So it's important to really be the face of your brand, whether it's a tech brand even. If you're passionate and you have a story, people will remember that story, right? And so it's important. If it's not jewelry, it could be a biomedical company. And I should add that I know you started by saying that it sounds very glamorous and it's A-list celebrities. Really, I could be selling toilet paper. It's just the nuts and the bolts, and it's the admin, and it's all of that. I wish every day I was on a movie set or at a photo shoot, but that's absolutely not the reality of it.
Well, thank you. Last question, because I know we're time tight. What, here at TIE, as you know, we're trying to expand upon what's been built by everybody for 30 years and really entering more into bringing in more female founders and female funders. What role did community play in building and raising funds for both your companies? Community, a sense of belonging.
Sure, it's hard, and I think it is always hard, especially for me in New York, as a woman of color in the jewelry and fashion business. You come up against so many barriers, and I think we run a big mentorship program at the Jewelry Edit where we focus on diverse and underrepresented designers. So you'll find designers with us who are sold at like the biggest department stores, but you'll also find emerging designers out of India, Brooklyn, Spain. But one interesting anecdote, and that gave me a real sense of community, and I know I'll make it quick, was that it's a little story that I used to always take the crosstown bus when I was practicing law. Tony would call me geographically undesirable because I lived so far east, but I would take the crosstown bus, and one day an older Indian gentleman got on the bus. He was new, I hadn't seen him before, and he saw just a familiar face, so he sat down next to me. And so forever, for the next few months or whatever, he would always sit next to me. We would just exchange a few words. I don't speak Hindi, but we would chat a little bit, and he gave me his card. Very nice man. I didn't think anything further about it. Fast forward a few years later, and I was leaving the law, as crazy as that sounds, and I was like, I know nobody in jewelry, nobody in fashion. Can I do this? I was just looking through my business cards, and I found his card. And it turns out he was the trade consul for India, based in New York. And so I called him up, and he took me out to lunch. He introduced me to a number of workshops in India. So when I went to India, I had these appointments set up, and one of those workshops I still work with today. In fact, I was texting this morning. So you never know, even sitting on the bus, you never know who you may be sitting next to.
Serendipity and magic always plays a small part, doesn't it? Last questions, lightning round, okay?
Oh.
Your favorite book you'd recommend to the founders in the room, male and female founders?
Oh gosh, I don't think I read a lot of those. Like, if I'm reading a book, it's to completely get away from everything.
From life.
Yeah, exactly.
From being an
And
entrepreneur.
unfortunately, I find there's 1 week of in the summer where all I do is read books.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, I can't recommend a great entrepreneurial book.
Okay, last question. Your favorite productivity app or your favorite blog?
Favorite blog? Productivity app is probably Strava, because I like to run. So I do like Strava as a way to that's like my zen time when I'm out running, listening to music. But yeah, that would be it.
Well, thank you, Rosena. And she's going to be here for a little bit after this session. So if you have any questions, I know we don't have time right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And next time we'll have some other person turned entrepreneur and investor. But it's been a pleasure seeing you again. We plan to do this every 20 years or so, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.